Continuing on the mining this wonderful book of quotes from songwriters. I think last time they were mainly about inspiration. And this section is a little bit to the contrary. This is the section about the craft of songwriting and the deliberate process that goes into it. First, from Suzanne Vega. To me, a song is like a piece of sculpture. You hammer it from all sides until the pure thing is left in the middle. And then, if it works from every angle, you know you've got something. Woody Guthrie. Your songs and your ballads, just like every kind of job of work you'll ever do, will be just as good as the number of days and months and weeks and years that you put in as a song and ballad maker. You're always on the job. Here's a longish piece about how John Lennon composed, which was quite interesting. Like a lot of people who are John Lennon fans, I wondered how the hell he did some of this stuff on work tapes, what it took to realise these concepts and ideas. He'd sit down to compose with an acoustic guitar or at the piano, a portable cassette player and mic, and his lyric sheets, if he had any. He'd just start putting to tape whatever ideas he had. If he stumbled on anything that sounded good, he'd stop the tape at the end of the take and make notes on his lead sheets. Just before you hear the tape clicking off, you can hear him start to rustle the paper. And then the tape clicks back on and you hear him rustling the paper back. The next take will sound similar, but it will be the next evolution. In some cases, by the time he gets to the 8th or 9th, it's a completely different song. Here's the contrast. I have Brad Roberts of Crash Test Dummies. I have trouble with the word inspiration because it suggests that something just hits you out of the blue and you have to kind of scramble to write it down. For me, it really is a matter of craft. It's a very rational process. I sit down at a particular time when all the other work is done. I make a pot of tea. I take the phone off the hook and I make notes. Reams of them. Here's one that took me slightly, made me sort of think twice. Where Robert Johnson stands out the most is as a lyricist. There were bluesmen going for irony, but not really satire. He really did add, I don't want to be trite about it and call it poetry, he added a poet's touch. Johnson's more literary, in a weird kind of semi-literate way. Listen to Dead Shrimp Blues. Woke up this morning and all my shrimps was dead and gone. Black guys had made comments and allusions and pitied the human condition, but they'd never taken it over to a kind of black humour and surrealism, the way that Johnson did. Here's Steve Cropper. It's definitely not the lyrics that are most important, I think, in terms of the end product. A good beat or a good musical sound or a good groove is the most important. The best way to prove it is to read some of my lyrics. We didn't write any fantastic lyrics. We wrote whatever fit the bar. A lot of the things we did with Otis Redding, he'd forget from the night before when we wrote it. He'd make up the words as we went along. Not for the whole song, but he'd forget a line and just improvise one to fit as he went. Here's a thought-provoking one, I think, from Melissa Manchester. I've read from before. One of the important things I've learned about writing is that after you've written a song, you should put yourself in the position of a stranger walking into the room and hearing the song for the first time. The question you must be able to answer objectively is, does that stranger understand what she's listening to? That's quite a hard test. We all know what we're trying to say. It's very hard to be objective, I think. And finally, from Sting, it's very hard to talk about music in words. Words are superfluous to the abstract power of music. We can fashion words into poetry so that they are understood in the way music is understood, but they only aspire to the condition where music already exists. Music is probably the oldest religious rite. Our ancestors used melody and rhythm to co-opt the spirit world to their purposes, to try and make sense of the universe. The first priests were probably musicians. The first prayers were probably songs.